If you need a camera that just works no matter the conditions, whether it's raining, a blizzard is passing through, or even in the midst of a hurricane, the Panasonic UR100 has you covered. This is a durable IP65 rated outdoor camera. It is salt resistant, it can withstand high winds, and it's designed for activities such as outdoor sports, weather camps, amusement parks, cruise ships, etc. Panasonic has been producing PTZ cameras for many years, offering some of the most advanced models on the market. Our universal RCP and PTZ controllers, they feel like they are designed specifically for Panasonic cameras because of our deep integration with their command set. In this video, we'll explore a new configuration for the PTZ Extreme that is designed to take full advantage of the advanced features in Panasonic's high-end PTZ cameras, including the UE100, UE150, the impressive UE160, and the UR100 camera. And you probably already noticed the sign that this is an outdoor camera because it has a wiper on the front that is currently wiping away all the rain that we have in the studio here. So that is one of the unique features about outdoor cameras, obviously. And on the PTZ Extreme, we can control the behavior of this wiper by finding the menu item that is specifically designed for outdoor cameras. So just quickly, PTZ Extreme, high-end PTZ controller from SKAARHOJ, nice Hall effect joystick, camera selector buttons, preset recall buttons. We have a menu on this row. We have encoders up here for all the settings, and we even have a shift level we can activate with the shift key here. And we have UR100 and UE150 in the studio. So right now I'm selecting the UE150, and it's mostly here for reference, so we have an alternative camera we can see. And now notice one thing, because in the menu I was just dialing to, I am missing an item that I know is there for the UR100, which is the outdoor menu. And inside this menu, we find the settings related specifically to this camera. And one of them is the wiper speed. It's currently set to slow, but I can set it to fast. And that means it will just have higher regularity in wiping the lens. And I can, of course, also set it to off. So aside from that, there's also a washer that we can trigger. So if I trigger this one, it's doing something and then it's returning, I think. So it's like coming up with some liquid on the lens and doing its thing. Right now we have not fueled it with any liquid that it would be using to washing its lens, so I don't know exactly how that works, but definitely I can trigger it. I can also do other things like turning on and off fans or put them in auto mode. I can set some angles and flipping the image, and I can also set a heater and a defroster on, or just keep them on auto if I want. So those are settings related to the outdoor aspect of this camera. And they are not found for the UE150. Obviously, that menu is missing on this one. I want to just turn the camera around to our little setup over here, so we have a nice target for what we are doing today. So there you see, we have the SKAARHOJ logo that we can try to zoom into this one. So the camera is actually performing really nicely as a high-end PTZ camera would be expected to do. So doing this, we can record a preset. So if I press and hold preset number 7, I have recorded this view. And if I record preset number 1, we see a different cropping here. I can go back to preset number 7. And that is what you can expect from SKAARHOJ controllers. Very quick store and record of preset positions by the pink buttons, basically. But most of what we want to explore today is found in the menus. Home menu is where we have a selection of parameters that is usually found in other menus as well, but they are broken out onto the home screen because they are assumed to be the most, the parameters that you want to most likely operate. And of course you can customize that. We'll come back to that later. In the exposure menu, you find, for instance, manual and automatic iris. And there's one thing I want to highlight here, which is how we built this menu, namely that if you're in the manual mode, the iris you see next to me here is actually showing the number. It's a little tiny here on the display, but it shows the abstract position of the iris, which is a 12-bit number that is just shown in the display, and then it also shows the f-stop underneath. And you can also use the iris dial here to do the same. But if I go into auto mode, it shows another parameter. And this is because we have programmed this configuration to show the one parameter in the one case and the other one in the other case. And it's actually kind of, through this configuration, you'll find many of these cases, like also for the shutter speed. So if we look for, let's just set that back to manual, and then if we look for the shutter speed, we have four options. We are off. We either have step, where we can just set the step shutter speed here. We can use synchro, which is aligning the shutter speed with the frequency, like if you have lamps at a certain frequency, you can adjust that. And then finally we have ELC, which is setting an upper limit to your shutter speed, basically, here. Those are the four options, and in each case, it changed which parameter were on this button here. And that could also have been done differently. We could have had 3 encoders dedicated to these parameters. And as we are going through all the time, only one of them, or potentially none of them, would be meaningful to show. But instead, we decided to program the configuration more condensed so that with 2 encoders, one selects the mode and the other one simply changes which parameters available depending on the mode. And even if you change that in the camera from another controller, it would be reflected back onto the PTZ Extreme, because it reads out the actual setting from the camera and uses that to display the parameters. A lot of blah blah to explain to you that our configurations has the ability to be really deep and very advanced, customized to the circumstance. Moving on into the menu, we have the color settings here. Red and blue gain. Green is missing because this camera doesn't support it, but if it was a UE160, it would be there. We have pedestal, red, blue, and green. And in a different video, where I use the RCP Pro, I am going more into details with that color stuff. Gamma settings, take a quick look at the displays. Knee settings, take a quick look. If we go into the next menu, matrix, linear matrix. And the main thing I want to show you is that we have decided to color code them. And that color coding is to kind of guide you to the color dimension that you want to adjust. Because otherwise, the titles of these numbers, I mean, we can set them any way we want, basically. It says matrix RG, so that's the red-green dimension. We have RB, the red-blue dimension, and so on. But using the colors will help you as an experienced colorist to kind of guide your eyes to the knob and the dimension that you want to adjust here. So we thought that would be really helpful, and we took it even further. If we go to the next one, where we have matrix saturation, there you see also the knobs are shaded with the color that tells you something about which dimension in the color circle, that, or direction, angle, if you will, that you are adjusting with the knob here. And in this case, we have more than just 8. We have actually 16 values that we want to change. And if I use this paging button, you see the second page is shown here. And again, we're using the color circle behind the encoder to indicate which color it is that you're adjusting. Hope you like this. We did the same for face. And then let's move on. In the image menu, we find this is like white balance related things and clipping, skin details, etc. Details menu, which is like sharpness of your image. Moving on, we're in the cropping menu. These cameras have an ability to make a HD crop out of 4K. We will not show that today. This has to do with the presets. And for instance, the preset scope of Panasonic cameras is interesting because here you can basically set it in mode A, B, and C. And these modes will dictate whether you include iris or focus in your presets, your stored presets, and your subsequent recalls, of course. So those are some of the things you see in here. Moving on to the OSD, we can turn on and off an OSD on-screen menu, and we can navigate with the encoder key here. So if we select this one, we can enter into the menu by this knob, and then we can go further into the menu in this way. We can also go all the way down to the return, and then return back, and then turn off the menu if you want. So that is for the things that might not be put onto the controller itself. In the PTZ control, we can set the speed. Just as an example, if I set the speed to 2 and I make a full swing on the joystick, you see it's fairly slow in its movement. And if I turn this up, then just go in the other direction, we have higher speed. And then obviously at 10, you have like full speed of the camera, which I almost don't dare to do. And then we have the same for zoom. So zoom and pan tilt speeds are separate here. We have a pan tilt curve that determines, like, you know, is the joystick acting linearly with the speeds, or is there like a curve to it? So you can adjust that on this dial here. Then we have focus related settings. And if I move on to system, we have digital zoom, we have desktop hanging position we can set here, etc. We can also on the next page, let me see, actually there was something I wanted to show you somewhere here. I think it was in this menu. Yes, because in the on-screen display menu, there's also additional settings that I thought I wanted to highlight in this video. Stabilization, there's optical image stabilization. And I think for an outdoor camera, that is probably a good idea. So imagine this one hanging from a pole high up, high winds, maybe not a storm, but still. You know, it will be swinging forth and back, and you might be zoomed in on the camera and so on. Will the picture be stable? Let's just recall a preset, maybe this preset, yes, and then put the kind of sensor. So let's simulate a little instability. So I'll just hold my hand under the camera here, and then maybe just a finger. All right, so now the camera is on a pole, and the storm is raging around it. And now I turn on optical image. No, wait, I'm actually already turned on. Now I'm off, okay? Now I'm off, and now I'm turning on the optical image stabilization. So you see it changes somehow the dynamics of what's happening. Now I turn it off again, and then I turn it, okay. I'm off, I'm on, I'm in a different mode, I'm in another mode, and another mode again, and again, and then I'm going back to off. And I'm trying to keep jagging it as much as I can in a similar way for all of these, but I think I could easily see that there was a clear improvement in the optical image stabilization when it was turned on in the different modes. You also have another image stabilization setting here, which is just on off. And then finally, we have this scene thing, which has nothing to do with image stabilization, but is if you kind of just want to put it into a full auto mode. And in full auto, you let the camera decide everything, obviously. So it's here, along with the scene files you can choose from. We are on scene number 3, which is where all our settings are being saved. So let's just maybe stay over there. Now I changed down to number 2. We're back at number 3. That's great. Okay. So image stabilization, I would say very important for an outdoor camera. Maybe less so for an indoor camera. Could still be relevant, probably, if you have an indoor camera hanging you know, in an auditorium, in a church, and then on the upper floor there are people dancing or moving, and it creates some movement to your camera picture. If you are zoomed in quite far, it might be helpful there as well. Moving on to the audio menu, it is funny to think about audio and PTZ cameras, but I want to highlight one thing, and that is again how the different parameters, there are some parameters for audio supported on UE150 and another set supported for UR100, and they are blanked out if they are not on the camera again. And then we had this outdoor menu. And finally, I want to show you how we can go back to our home screen, and on this home screen we can actually utilize that display, which is currently turned off. Why is it turned off? Well, because there was another camera that actually had green gain, and if it had been a UE160 camera, there would have been a green gain setting right here, just like we can adjust red and blue gain. But in this case, we don't. And therefore, I want to utilize that. What you see here is Reactor. This is the UI of the PTZ Extreme. This one is not depending on my Mac. It is talking straight to these two cameras. So no computer, except the one sitting inside PTZ Extreme, is required to control these two cameras. That's very important. So my laptop is only here to show the web UI of the PTZ Extreme. And the home screen looks like this. For a quick moment, let's look at it. We have two devices over here. These cameras, they are both on an IP address and they have IDs. So the first ID, number 1, is the UR100. The second ID, 2, is UE150. And the way the camera selector works is actually by changing the ID in the system so that we go between the one and the other. Inside of this camera selector table, you can set more details for each of the cameras. Basically, you see the two IDs, which shouldn't be a surprise, but we can also name them. So if I wanted to say cam number 1 in the display, notice the display, I just typed that in, and I could say cam 2 to the second one, and it would also reflect. But this configuration you see right here is in fact why we have all these advanced features broken out, because many Panasonic cameras, they don't have all these fancy features we have been going through with matrix and outdoor settings and so on. That's programmed into the PTZ high-end Pro class configuration we made. And that's what we are showcasing in this video. But I want to highlight that there is also a mid-range configuration, which is optimized for Panasonic's mid-range cameras. There's a generic configuration that is optimized for probably all Panasonic cameras and just basic settings, etc. And that is actually true for Canon and Sony and PTZ Optics and IDA cameras and whatever it might be. There will be configurations for each of these types of cameras. Okay. But it's in the configuration tab that I can now target specifically what is in the home menu. And in here, you actually have a very easy way to deal with these. You see the whole controller is there, but we are zoomed in on just the section that defines the encoders. And that is because down here, the section we have chosen is the camera adjustment encoders. That is the section that we are dealing with. And basically, if I click on this, you can see how I'm going through basically the menu settings. So you could either navigate this on your controller over here, or you can do it in the software by simply clicking. So this is how I navigate. Just quickly, if you go to the user section, you can override anything on the controller by clicking and then add an action. But in this part of the video, I want to show you how we can zoom in and change something on encoder number 4. It's really easy. All you do is to click the encoder, and basically over here you can choose the action that you want to go onto this encoder, and we can search for ND filter, for instance, to put ND filters onto this encoder. There's a little toggle here. You can turn this on and off, and that depends on whether you always want to set it for one of these models, like if it should be the UR100 or the UE150, or if you have the encoder turned on, then it will be in general a parameter for Panasonic PTZ cameras. And that's probably what we should do, because if we do that, the identification of the camera we are sending this command to will depend on which one is selected on the camera selector, because we use a so-called variable to identify the camera. So that's what we'll do. But before we do it, there's a little but. And that is, notice this one, there's an information box saying switch to the active behavior overlay. It is an advanced message, and we need to click this one because it turns out that there is already an action on this one. And if we created the other one, we would sort of shove it underneath it. And that is the action that blanks it out and make it just black at the moment. That's green color gain, because there was already something assigned to it. We change this behavior. So we go back here, and then we search up our ND filter parameters, select this one, and the moment we do, you see that we have ND filter on the encoder, also on the real controller. Let's test it. So as I now have camera number 1, UR100 selected, let's apply the ND filter. And you see the filter is applied, it's clear from the output of the camera. What happens if I change the camera is that turning this knob is changing the value on the controller, but the change is happening on the other camera. We can't see it. I can hear it here in the studio, but it's actually changing over there. Going back here, you see now it is targeting this one. Why? Because the device ID, which is a setting for this parameter, a necessary setting, is defined by the variable called device index, which is like the convention inside SKAARHOJ controllers. You use this variable when you have a camera selector to select the right camera. If you have invested in Panasonic PTZ cameras, you can confidently choose a SKAARHOJ PTZ controller for flexible and future-proof control experiences. And our deep integration ensures you're well covered in everything you want to do. If you liked this video, then please like and subscribe to our channel. You can also follow us on social media or reach out to our sales and support team. Links for all that is in the description below. So far, thanks for watching.